You know, behavior doesn't lie.
No.
And many pastors that we're working with, they're actually longing to get that kind of feedback in their life.
Now, these observers aren't going home with them. They're not observing their marriages or the way they treat their kids, are they?
Actually, one of the observers is a spouse if they're married.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Whoa.
it gets. Yeah.
What if the spouse? That's a little scary. What if the spouse has an agenda? I mean, how do you know you get an objective perspective?
Because it'll show up in the test. It's like we're doing a 360 review. So inconsistencies like that do come up sometimes, and but we have counterbalances.
Is there a common theme in terms of leadership dysfunctions that you could observe on?
Yeah, I think that there's several things that you see.
Give me an example or two.
Well, one of them is, I might describe it as posturing. It's where a leader postures themselves in a certain way publicly, but internally, inwardly, in their spirit, they're not functioning at the same place. And so there's a discontinuity between how they're living out their lives and what's going on the inside. And that over an extended period of time creates an angst inside that is going to leak out in unhealthy ways. And it can be through poor judgment, it can be through sinful behavior, blatantly sinful behavior. It can be, it's often, a telltale sign is often a trail of really destructive relationships in their lives. So that would be one that I see. And another thing would be a pastor who's being trained to lead a church, they're not taught a great deal about leadership. They're taught how to exegete the scriptures, etc. And so I think that another thing that occurs is they start grasping for leadership principles and then apply them without really any thought about, is this a biblical model? Is this how Christ would lead? And when they do that, that can be a destructive thing.
I'm a preacher's kid, and my dad was a very effective and functional leader, mentoring me before he knew the word mentor existed, or I knew it existed. But I used to just, I walked through my life with him, not knowing that I was being trained for the ministry just by being with him. Right. Do you get many preachers' kids involved in the Arrow program, or are they maybe less aware of their need than others would be because of the fact they've been mentored?
Well, we could have a whole conversation about this.
Because some pastors I know are dysfunctional, and,
yes.
and they might teach their sons and daughters some bad habits.
Right.
But for those who are more than functional but very effective, it seems to me that their kids have got to have a leg up if they go into ministry.
Yeah, well, that's the operative phrase, is the last part. Yeah. Because many of them are opting out, and they're going, you know, I'm watching what my parents are going through in ministry, and I just don't want any of that.
Right.
And I can minister in other ways. I don't have to do it by going through what I've seen my parents go through.
Because they've been beat up?
Yeah, often.
Yeah. By the board or by people in the church?
Yeah. So great people. So in actual fact, we're seeing fewer ministers' kids come through the Arrow program than others who have been saved independently from in other ways.
What about marriages? Some pastors, put their church ahead of their wives, ahead of their kids. Surely you have to confront this from time to time.
Yes, we actually do direct both investigation of how, if they're married, what the relationship is like. We involve the spouse in the program in terms of being part of the assessment team at the front end of it. And then we invite the spouses to come for one of our residential weeks with the leader, and we teach them together about what it's like to be in Christian leadership and be married, because there are particular challenges. I think it's where the evil one often focuses the attack, is on the marriage relationship.
What do you do when you're intimately involved, engaged really, with some pastor for 6 months, observing him, and all hell breaks loose? You're shocked at what you discover, to the point where you say, this man needs serious help, and he should get out of this church now. Does that ever happen?
Yes.
And then how do you deal with that?
Well, if the way that a leader comes to us at Arrow is through an application process, and if we receive them into it's a 2-year-long intentional mentoring relationship. If we receive them into that, we're committed to them.
Yeah.
And we have had marriages in trouble. We've had bad church situations come up. But they're in perhaps one of the best places they could be, because they're surrounded with incredible wisdom, and that in terms of their classmates and others that are surrounding them to guide them through those difficult times. We also have a great psychologist on our team who has a degree in theology, and he does this wonderful blend, Dr. Mitch Whitman, of bringing scripture and great counseling practice together. And he's available to these folks even after the program is over, because we know them really well.
Dr. Carson Pue is the president of the Arrow Leadership Organization. You can log on to arrowleadership.org and find out more about Arrow. But this is obviously a ministry that's having a big impact, and very, very solid leader. Thanks for coming our way.
Thanks.